Hello and welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast, where every week a few friends get together and tell you a story. I'm, of course, Levi.
I'm Reed.
And I'm Seth.
And we are here to talk about a story. Planetside is done. Our trilogy is complete. How does it feel, guys?
Feels good. I'm wondering if sequel will get drawn this time.
That would be
a popular
hilarious.
One the last few weeks.
Yeah. Do you feel something about this, Reed?
Yeah, a lot. I think it's a great story. In its entirety, but just the Planetside one, I just like, especially the couple of twists that you threw in with the Slimies and Levi, and then I was kind of caught a little bit flat-footed with trying to come up with I had the ending, and I felt like it was kind of lame. I felt like I kind of dropped, I kind of froze up, and
yeah.
So
if I can call a duck, am I allowed to call a duck?
Yeah.
That was a pretty lame happy ending, Reed.
Yeah. So I just froze up and couldn't come up with a storyline that headed where it needed to go. So
I know it's getting colder out at night, and so it really does the old bones a little freezing up.
My bones are fine. No, it's all right, Reed. We all have those things. They all happen to us. You know, I have biffed many a great idea because my brain just wasn't working the way it should have at that present time. So
I think we've all done
you guys
public speaking, right?
Yeah, I've forgotten my lines in the middle of a show I've played 100 times. Speaking of stories and biffing it, though, what is your guys' scores for this episode? Or this story, excuse me. Should we do a little recap before we get into our scores?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Okay. So the story's title was called Planetside. We had a couple of elements. In this series of stories, both Reed and Seth were not able to attend one of the three story building episodes. So we're a little bit story element starved, but I think we made it work. The first element was sequel, which was 300 years since the firestorm virus. The Outworlders are starting to revert to humanity. The second element was economic system. People worship and use the metal that lines the Slimy's ships to shield their computers from the firestorm virus, and they believe it brings them good luck. Our third element was the hero, who was Charlie, classic Charlie from before, Charlie who locked Teach away thousands of years ago now. He founded the order that fights the AI. He's been the hero this entire time. It has always been Charlie. Element 3.5 was Hero's sidekick, which was Cal, a scavenger that was invited to join the monastic order that can see through the AI, cult personalities, and has been sort of manipulating humanity. The fourth element was the villain, which is Kane, an outworlder that was being controlled by the AI to include people on the rocket so that he can harness the firestorm virus as a weapon. The fifth element was Wildcard, and the Wildcard was all the other planets that are also isolated and are also being affected by the firestorm virus. The Slimies are using this fear and isolation to profit. This is why they will not take anyone on their ships off-world. The sixth element was unique vehicle. It is a cage that contains hornets. When you stick your finger into it, and one stings you, you move at incredible speeds and do not age. This was a callback from Winston is Betting on the Hornets. The seventh element is happy ending. Charlie and Cal are sent up to the satellite with the virus. They see through the lies of the AI and are able to shut it down. But before this, Kane realizes that every planet is effective and goes insane, realizing that the AI has bridged the gap and spread the firestorm virus to the human mind. Our story setting was humanity has started to recover. It's been 300 years since the firestorm virus. However, it still plagues them. It seems that when the AI that released the firestorm virus to destroy all computer systems did so, it corrupted itself, and now a deep space satellite that holds the virus makes its 4-month trip to Earth, and every 4 months, it awakens all the computers and droids on Earth and sets them to the task of killing all humans. Humanity's only goal has been to complete a rocket and power it, either board the satellite or destroy it. People pay tithe to the rocket, and all of humanity seems to be focused on the rocket. That was what I wrote as we were developing this. And then I fed all that into AI, and AI gave me this little tiny, about 350 word short story. You guys want to hear it?
Sounds great. I want to hear it.
It's called Scene, the Hornet's Edge. The rocket's skeletal frame loomed in the twilight, its starshield panels glinting like sacred idols. Cal, the wiry scavenger, crouched in the shadows, his belt heavy with starshield amulets. Scraps of slimy ship metal that shielded his comms from the firestorm virus. Besides him, Charlie, the 3,000-year-old founder of the monastic order, clutched the hornet's cage, its bioengineered insects humming with promise and peril. 3 centuries after the virus' first strike, the deep space satellite was hours from its 4-month return, ready to awaken Earth's droids into a killing frenzy. Kane's guards are too close, Charlie whispered, his eyes unaged by countless hornet stings. Scanning the launch bay, the Outworlder's half-human, and AI thralled was luring people to the rocket, a trap to harvest minds for the virus's weaponization. Cal's, newly inducted into the Order, saw through the AI's cultish lies, thanks to Charlie's centuries-honed wisdom. Sting time? Cal asked, his heart pounding. 1 hornet sting would grant speeds to outrun droids, and youth to defy time, but risked their sanity. Charlie nodded, and Cal jammed his finger into a cage, a hornet's venom burning like lightning. The world slowed, grimacing, guards' movements crawling. Charlie stung himself. Grimacing, they bolted past Outworlder sentries. Kane's voice echoing unhinged. Every planet's infected. The AI's in all of us. He'd learned the Slimies profited from galactic fear, hoarding Starshield, and that the virus had breached the human mind. His mind had shattered. They reached the rocket's core. Charlie slammed a Starship shield-encased counter-virus into the uplink. This ends it, he said. The console sparked, and the satellite signal died. The droids froze. Kane stumbled in, raving, but Cal, still blazing with speed, and tackled him. Freedom was theirs, for now.
I like it. That was what the AI came up with.
That's what the AI came up with. I fed it in all the information that I just read to you, and then it came up with this. I did had it change a couple of things, so it gave me a couple of different alliterations.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting. First off, what are your guys' scores for this story that we wrote, not what AI did?
I had 6.
I also had 6.
You
better not give it 6 or...
Yeah, I will refrain from giving it the mark of the beast and instead give it an 8 because I thought it was definitely much better than the one before it. I mean, yeah. So, what did you guys?
You gave the one before it 8.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this is a trilogy that I could write.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about it actually. I wrote my short story that we did last year or something, and I've never released it to anyone. It's actually just got done being edited a couple weeks ago, and so hopefully soon I will release it. But I'm thinking this as a thing to write next.
Tom Clancy wrote a trilogy. He started out with Hunt for Red October, and then backtracked and did a backstory like prequel.
Right.
That was Patriot Games.
Yeah.
And then I think it was the next one he wrote was Cardinal in the Kremlin, which was just a brilliant. I think it was the best. It was just a great spy thriller. Well, then he got a lot of acclaim for this story, so he continued on. Clear and Present Danger, Sum of All Fears, Debt of Honor, Executive Action. Anyway, and then went back and did a prequel that just like developed one of the key characters, went back and told the backstory of this like super spy, the John Clark character. And it was really good. Yeah. And I was just thinking how this would be, going back and doing the prequel of the trilogy where Charlie is really introduced. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For
sure.
This thing has a lot of potential.
Well, it's not copyrighted, so feel free to make $1 million writing the next novel from it.
Yeah.
But that's my score. There was a lot of elements in this that I really liked. But let's get to the AI. I want to point out a couple of things I thought were interesting about the AI story that it wrote. There's a couple of things which were if you use the hornets, you might go insane, which was not written at all in any of the information. So it like came up with this possible issue, you know?
Yeah, that was
I
an
thought that was
interesting
kind of
wrinkle.
interesting. How it came up with the name. I just called it the metal that lined the slimy ship, but it called it Star Shield.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought that was interesting. I thought it was interesting. Maybe this is just purely from a using AI perspective, that it touched on every single aspect of the information that I gave it, which makes sense. But for like writing, it's kind of weird. Like you wouldn't have to, Charlie, the 3,000-year-old founder of the monastic order, you wouldn't have to say that this far into the book. But the way the AI thinks is it's like, well, all the information you gave me has to be referenced in the material somehow. How it did this scanning the launch bay, the Outworlder, half human, half AI thralled. Like this idea that people were not only being tricked by AI, but were kind of being taken over by them as well.
Yeah.
Was also another interesting thought process that I hadn't really, I guess if we had gotten there, I would have gotten there, but I hadn't really gotten there yet, you know?
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else that was weird about the AI story, which is not my preference, by the way. I would prefer to have someone else write a little vignette story based on the information that we've gathered here. You know, I would love to, but I'm a very busy person at the moment. So if you want to, I'll make these files available to you and you can look at them and write your own, and I'll read it and I'll give you accreditation, you know, let me know. Anyways, what did you guys think of our story that we wrote as a whole?
When you say as a whole, you mean the whole three?
No, I mean this episode, but what I mean by our story is not the AI story anymore, but the one that we worked on.
I mean, I like it. I mean, I put it at a 6, so it's higher than middle, but you know, and I think at the very beginning, I think that's kind of what I said. This series, knowing that we got sequel, or we had talked about it being a trilogy when we did the first one, imagining
Right.
the prequel, that one, and one more. However, the trilogy ended up being 3 after the prequel
Right.
that we talked about.
Right.
And putting it kind of in that, like you would like to read it, you know,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of potential, a lot of interesting things, something that would be like, oh yeah, like in the Tom Clancy thing. Have you heard, you know, Tom Clancy's new thing? I don't know. I haven't read any of Tom Clancy's for a while, but you know, it always kind of strikes me as something that's like that thing that's really good that you do read when the new one comes out, but also in a genre of things that's like, you know, there could be a lot of people that like it, but doubt that it's going to be, you know, a stand of the ages like Lord of the Rings or something
Right.
like that.
Right.
That was like, do you remember years ago? Maybe you guys are too young for this. Tim LaHaye and a ghostwriter had the Left Behind series. It was kind of like,
Oh yes,
Yeah,
I know the Left Behind series.
Yeah.
based on the, you know, on a rapture and revelations and like end times from the Bible, but like the first like 4 of them, I thought really had like they were really going, and then they realized they had a franchise, and then they were cranking them out. So like the next like 3 books like really should have been handled in one book. But you know what
Right.
I'm saying? They were
Right.
milking it. They were milking it. And it just, I kind of lost interest because you know, every few months they'd crank out another one, and I'm sure it was good for the revenue stream, but little else, you know. And I mean, they meant well. I shouldn't criticize. I didn't do it, but what I'm saying is it's a temptation when you have a franchise like that going to keep it working, you know, and you could kind of milk the story to death.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I mean, I do like it because I think that the way that this is set up, the way that each one of them ends, and I think that if the ending in this one is wrapped together with the idea that all the planets had been infected, right? Because each of them kind of ends on like it wraps up, but a cliffhanger. It wraps up as
Right.
and a cliffhanger, which then sets up, you know, kind of the slightly different genre, but then a whole different take as the next one kind of comes about. Or either one of the things that I'm thinking of is in a lot of our other stories we talk about this, seeding race, right, that had colonized the stars and all the different shoot-offs of that. So like that could play in very well to, I guess you could say, the catastrophe that would have left a lot of these places in the dark, assuming they're the only place now. So I think it has potential like that to play into a good many of our other things, so that you wouldn't have to keep, let's say, hampering Charlie and this space, but give like the prologue basically to now all these other ones. I don't know if anyone's going to do like a extensive work on all our stories and figure out which ones are in the same universe and which branch stories and what part of the timeline. I think that it would give a stepping stone to that if you wanted to tie it into the real world, I guess.
I was just thinking of the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett, which is like 40 books. And as a single book, none of them, except like On a Pale Horse, I think is... sorry, I just turned to look at my shelf. I think is like, in my opinion, a real standalone book. But as a sort of a collected whole, they provide a comprehensive picture. And it's a small book. They're not huge. Have you read any of those, Reed?
No.
I have some. I'm looking at my shelf right now. I should be recording. But as each individual book as a standalone book, it's kind of like, this isn't that impressive. But then when you sort of consume them all as a group, it's like, wow, this is really impressive.
Yeah.
And so I think you're right, Seth. That same concept is what I personally would like to see with this. And the stories are so they're not that deep. They're so kind of it's like 100 miles wide but an inch deep.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that they're bad writing or bad ideas. It just means they're for train rides, and not for giant cross-examinations.
One thing I want to say, I listened to the episode that I wasn't on.
Yeah.
And I really, Seth, I really liked the way you kind of pulled together different elements that had been brought into the storyline before and had kind of been half dropped, that really helped me as far as feel a kind of a cohesive whole. And then of course, just the Slimies, just developing of the people that, were basically just deep space people and had never really, inhabited a planet that had, plenty of sunshine and fresh air. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That really made the story Planetside just anyway. I thought you guys, I wasn't really in on it as much as you guys. I guess I introduced the sequel, but that was about it. But anyway, I like that.
Yeah, me too. There's a couple of, neither of you guys have read Snow Crash. This shares a lot of similarities in some of the ways with the firestorm virus and stuff like that, with the book Snow Crash, which is a really great kind of not post-apocalyptic, but kind of a postmodern techno future.
Yeah.
Corporate future.
When you were talking about that whole idea of, what's a standalone and how does it fit in the whole, I was thinking of the early on I'd read The Stand, and I thought it was a pretty good story, but it wasn't until I read the Dark Tower series and then understood where The Stand fit. Then I went back and read it again, and it was like with an entirely, like I had a framework in which to place the storyline, and it just made it so much richer.
Right, and that's how I felt about It, Needful Things,
yeah,
Salem's Lot, The Stand, Pet Cemetery, The Shining.
Was Shining part of recognizably part of the great?
Oh, the Shining, having an ability called The Shining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, see, okay, all
Seth
right.
hasn't read.
Okay.
Seth hasn't finished it, so.
Okay.
But yes.
Just seeing I never read The Shining, but I just saw clips with Jack Nicholson. And I just said, just like this is so demonic. I just don't want to have anything to do with it. It was during a period of my life where I felt I really needed to guard my heart from going into dark places.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't. Don't read The Shining then.
Yeah.
I have it somewhere.
Nicholson was brilliant, by the way.
He was.
Yeah.
He still is.
Oh man.
Any other interesting what's the word, inspirations for this story from you guys? For me, there was one. There's a book series, and I believe it was a TV show as well called Altered Carbon. And in it, there's a lot of different. Was it only a TV show? It wasn't only a TV series, right? It was a book series. Yeah. Okay. Good. And in it, there's some interesting elements like an AI virus that causes them to go insane, and then that virus can jump over to humans, or eventually does jump over to humans. So there was aspects of that I felt like were taken. Some of the AI helpfulness, and then the AI kind of misunderstanding about what being helpful meant.
Yeah.
It really freaked me out. The idea that like all the city was like pointed towards the rocket, and people would like disappear behind you, because people weren't taking care of each other. People were focused on this rocket. And so you turn around and like the guy who lived behind you would go, and the AI would peel people off and take them to these retreats and kind of warp their brains. The whole idea of like, it's happening to some extent, but people learning to think a different way or communicate in a different way according to how like the computer wants you to think and communicate was always really freaky to me. There's lots of little elements in this that I think are really good. And like I said I was going to do before, I'm going to try and figure out how this story meets in with the bigger story at large. So, Seth, you got any cool anecdotes from this Planetside story?
I know there was something. I don't know if it was the one where it was just you and me, or if it was in the last one we all did, where something came up as like, that will expand in detail when we do the recap. And I can't remember what that was. Maybe we already talked about it. Maybe we didn't. So if we didn't cover whatever it is that you wanted us to talk about that we talked about talking about now, when whoever's listening to this listens to the other episodes, then they can let us know. But
I remember that now. Oh my gosh. I have no idea. That's irritating. I would really like to know. What that was. That would be good. Oh well. Is it time to be done with this episode, do you guys think? Unless you guys got any other interesting ideas. I'm pretty much all talked out from my ideas.
Yeah, I think aside from that thing that I can't think of,
that's great.
It's going to bother us. Someone will have to let us know.
Absolutely. Well, I guess that I will draw the elements for next week then. Levi has Pantheon. Reed has Genre. Seth has Magic System. Sorry, guys, no sequels today.
We see the Magic System. To explain it in detail, you have to go to the beginning before our previous story.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do that. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Let's Review a Story. If you have any questions about our process, about how it works, about how we're doing, just, like emotionally on a day-to-day basis, send us an email at waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com or at us on Twitter at @getsbettercast. We are happy to answer questions, provide feedback, take suggestions on cool story ideas. We're happy to do whatever it is you want us to do regarding this podcast and stories, as long as it does not cause us to break any ethics or morals. Till next time, we love you. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. You can find us on all podcast systems. This has been Wait It Gets Better.